So we're moving beyond hype. I'm just kidding. It's awesome to see everyone. I'm Cecilia Zanidi. I'm the founder and CEO of GCAI, and I have had the pleasure of having Megan as my kind of GC idol for probably a good 10, 12 years.
Pressure.
Literally, yeah. So Megan has been general counsel of, at this point, 4 software companies. I think all of them unicorns. Is that fair? Yeah, literally decacorn. Like,
I'm not saying it's because of the legal team, but
yeah, exactly. No, we're gonna get to that. So Megan, tell us a little bit about you, and then we can dive in.
Yes, Megan Niedermeyer. I am the Chief Legal Officer at Anaconda. We're a developer tools platform for Python. Previously, had the privilege of leading the legal teams and growing out the legal teams really from scratch at Apollo.io, where we got to work with Brenda. Before that at Fivetran, and then before that with Joe somewhere, maybe here. Yes, Joe, Fivetran. And then before that at Gusto, where I started my career in-house after being an attorney at Cooley in San Francisco.
Amazing, yeah. So on my side, I was a general counsel for 10 years, a lawyer for almost 20. California bar exam this week, if anybody paid attention to that. Best bar exam snack is blood oranges, fight me. But yeah, so let's, well, some people said granola, and somebody told me their favorite bar exam snack was CBD gummies. So, you do you. But anyways, yeah, so anyway, all right, so let's dive in. So basically, we're going to use the OG AI, which is Siri. Huge missed opportunity by Apple, by the way. But we're going to set a timer. We're going to fireside chat, because I think we were in the prep thinking a little bit about, okay, Megan has a ton to say. She's got this amazing vantage point of boards and CEOs literally like begging her to be their GC, right? And then thinking about like, how do we bring AI, and how do we just accelerate growth, right? So the legal teams that I've seen that are most, I guess, sought after are those where it's like, you helped me do this faster. And now for me as a CEO, I use a variety of lawyers, and the ones that I call back and that I want to bring in-house, and I'm trying to make an offer to be my GC, those are the folks that make it go faster, the systems run smoother. It's not like, oh my God, where's the attachment? Just these like random issues don't happen. And they're just that reliability. I don't think I realized before I was a CEO how much the reliability and the like speed and the answer is going to be right and there, and you care, and it's like the detail, all that stuff. I didn't realize how important that was from the client standpoint until I was here. So Megan has all that. But anyways, we're gonna use the OG AI, and we got half an hour. And so we're gonna do 14 minutes where I am the interviewer, and then when Siri gives us the call, we're gonna flip it. Sound good?
I am very excited to interview you, Cecilia.
Okay, amazing. Does anybody in the room still remember what their bar exam snack was? Anybody show of hands? Anybody? Yeah, it looks like about half of us. All right, good. And do you still have like a mental association with that snack? Like when you see it and you think of like the Oakland Coliseum? Yeah, that's me. All right, okay. So now we're primed. And by the way, pink leather jacket. This was like somebody told me that like this happens to be a fashionable group, so I'm excited to bring it. All right, let's see. So set a timer for 14 minutes.
14 minutes starting now.
Boom. All right.
You can learn a lot about people, by the way, on which Siri setting they have in terms of their voice.
Yes. Yeah, they changed it. There was the Her lawsuit. We can talk about AI and copyright. I could talk all day about AI, which is why I'm here. Amazing. All right. So, Megan, tell me a little bit about how the teams that you've managed, what kind of things have you done to drive their influence across the org?
Yeah, so somebody shared this with me really early.
I couldn't AI copyright.
AI to the rescue,
yeah, exactly.
Correcting me. I love it.
I know. Sorry, go. Sorry.
But when you speak of influence, like somebody said this early in my career, the best way to get business development is to do great work. And I think that applies to influence as well. The best way to have influence is to do great work, reliably showing up, delivering the things you said you would deliver on the timeline you said you would deliver them, and ultimately just over-communicating across the whole spectrum of everything you work on. I think particularly for companies that are growing, where legal is new or legal is looking to have a bigger influence, part of that influence becomes with way over communicating everything that's in your head. I think I would want to wait for someone to tell me, hey, I really don't want that much background until I pull back. And like most people don't say that because they're really curious. What happens behind the curtain in legal? I actually don't really know. Legal goes off and does this thing and spits out an answer of yes or no. And so I think one thing that like great legal teams can do is really sit down with folks or spend that extra time to do an extra long Slack. Hey, I know you brought this issue to us. Here's the way we think about it. Here's this other consideration I have to go track down. I would love to understand from you what other considerations you have. Let's go back and forth on this for a little while. And we're all so busy that actually taking the time to learn about their pain points and share yours with them actually is a great way to have influence because you're bringing them along on your whole mind meld journey.
So, you mentioned Slack. What are some tips and tricks for Slack specifically? Or like communicating with stakeholders? So you laid out a beautiful Slack there. Like, have you seen Slack be a mechanic for good, I guess, across?
You have to know your company, right? Like, you have to know what sort of communication platform folks tend to be in and hate. And like, everybody hates Slack to some extent because it's incessant. But I realized pretty early on that Slack was really critical to a couple of companies. And I am a very direct communicator, maybe a little bit too direct. And so for me to have influence, I have to pepper my Slacks full of emojis. Brenda can attest, like probably too many emojis. And I'm getting old now, and I'm maybe using the wrong emojis, but at least I'm trying. And like, the emojis are helping drive people to the things I need them to read in the order I need them to read them in. But in terms of general communications, I think one of the things I love to do with my legal teams is like, let's put together a communication plan. Anything that we are shipping, the same way a product gets shipped out into the universe, where you've got a comms plan, a PMM who's helping with the product marketing on that. Like, we should think about that in terms of the legal team having a product marketing kind of plan. Hey, we're going to ship this new trust center. We're going to ship a new process. We have a new threshold for the way we are reviewing agreements. Here's the comms plan that goes along with it. These are the 5 audiences. I want to do a series of Slacks to these key Slack groups, the CS Slack group, the sales Slack group, the support team Slack group. I want to do an all-company announcement that's way shorter. I want to spin up an internal wiki site, and that seems like pretty holistic. We're getting our message out, and we're really hammering people over the head with what we're doing, why we're doing it, what they need to know, what they need to do. I think those are the cornerstones of any really great transformational project. And implementing AI, there's no bigger transformational project.
Amazing, I love that. Yeah, on the Slack emoji point, like this is actually something that I was, when I managed compliance and legal teams, it's very similar. Like, meet the people where they are, right? So if the people are in Slack and you're sending emails, when I was at Cruise, literally like, engineers just didn't read email. Like, and it was like, I'm like, how did they not read email? Like, but whatever, can't we force them? But then I basically quickly realized exactly what Megan said. And the research backs this up, by the way. Emojis improve recall. Interesting AI angle. We have a GC on the platform, and when she asks for that kind of change management communication, she says, give this to me in an 8th grade reading level. And you might say, okay, that's offensive. Like, does your sales team really only read at that level? But the thing is, people are on mobile, people are busy. Like, being able to communicate with the business in the way that they will absorb, just like Megan said, like, to me, that's been a critical thing. So, like,
I think you can also learn a lot about your legal team in terms of, you mentioned emoji and recall messaging. Ask the members of your legal team on your next weekly meeting, hey, here's our icebreaker. Pull up your Slack and most recently used emojis. There's like 8 to 10 of them. That'll tell you a lot about what kind of legal team you've got. Yeah. Is it like I am checking things and I'm thumbs upping? Is it I'm the eyeballs, like constantly like, what? What'd you just say? Is it something else in between? Like, maybe you've got the wizard. Maybe you've got a bespoke Slack emoji. And like, maybe those are actually doing wonders for people reading and retaining the information.
That's a good one. We implemented a will do emoji in Slack. You just go to add emojis, will do. We have a will do. We have an on it. We have a, LFG, of course. But we have all of those. And actually, that's helpful. And we had, speaking of advanced legal ops, at one of my companies, we had a Slack bot where when you emojied, it would create the ticket.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
Yes.
Other tips and tricks, when I was at Amazon, we had that you could not get a Salesforce account, i.e. you could not start selling unless you passed a pretty hard quiz about the contract principles at that company. And the idea was, and the way that we got this across, similar to what Megan said, was we said, when you go to Mercedes and you go to buy a Mercedes, and you're like, hey, what's the warranty? Does the salesperson be like, no, that's legal, I can't help you? Like, no. They're going to be like, okay, it's bumper to bumper, 36,000 miles, and kind of know the basics. And so that was, aspirational. I don't think every team can do that, but using that gate. And it was very supported because the legal team moved super fast, and similarly, having these threshold issues that don't have to go to legal, I would say that's a strategic goal. So
Yeah.
tell us about the kind of threshold issues that don't have to go to legal. How have you implemented that, if at all? It's okay if you haven't.
And this is where we turn to AI, beyond the
Yeah.
hype.
So it's a good segue.
I think that we talk about the change management piece, the communications piece, and this is all because with the rise of all of these AI tools, the automations, the bots, literally there are so many opportunities to take away what used to be rote work, what used to be check the box, which used to be, hey, this thing needs to get done. And as a legal team, if we can leverage those tools for the things that are repeatable and high volume and relatively low risk, if you give me the 90% correct answer 90% of the time, I will feel a 200% satisfaction. That's great. How does the rest of the legal team lean into the human skills that we can't automate? The skills around communication, change management, trust building, judgment calls, figuring out, pairing the legal team philosophy with a company-wide philosophy. Those are things that even the best AI tool is not going to get you all the way there. And so we want to spend our time doing those pieces of work that are so much harder to automate and send out.
How did you go to that process of, or is it pretty clear where that line is of okay, I can look at a limitation liability, it's a 1x cap, okay, I'm gonna mark it up. But where does it come in of okay, how does Fivetran do it? How does your company do it? How have you, well, let's see. Maybe I'll ask it a different way. When you come into a company and you look at the commercial processes and you start to think about where can legal add value, et cetera, how do you physically do that exercise?
Yeah, I think what's hard is as lawyers, we want to add value at anything that we think we're good at. And the place where a lot of attorneys start is contracts. I can read, I can mark this up, I can think about these issues, I can push back, I can argue. But when you take that big zoom out view, what part of this is actually accretive to the company overall and is going to move the needle? Maybe some of it, but also probably not a lot of it. And so as you think about implementing automation processes in AI, that is the place I would start. Where are people spending the most of their time? Let's get a sense. And do we think that investment of time is net accretive to not just the legal team, but the overall business? And so I think too, legal teams can be really scared of implementing AI because there's so much of what we do that it depends. There's background that AI doesn't know. I also know that we're buying them as a vendor at the same time as we're negotiating a customer relationship, and I should pair those two things together, but I haven't found a tool that integrates across every single system and tells me these things. Well, it's okay. We can implement AI and have humans in the loop, and that is the best place to start, because if you've got one human who is reviewing things that are already done, they might catch things 2 out of 20 times. But those other 18 times, they no longer have to spend the hours marking up that they used to. Yeah. But the big pushback I mostly get from legal teams implementing AI, and I'm excited to turn this over to you, is we just don't have time. Yeah. We are so busy. We're so under-resourced. I need 5 more team members. I cannot carve out the time to play with this tool when I'm not really sure how to play with it. I'm not really sure what the best use cases it's going to save me time. And so maybe ahead of the time frame.
We're gonna jump the Siri gun here, but now look, it sounds like what you're saying is that, well, so actually here, let me ask this a different way. How much of your when you come into legal and you're brand new GC? Do you start by identifying the problems and the bottlenecks? Do you do the kind of roadshow tour? How do you do that? And then specifically, so start with that, and then I'll be curious, because I think right now AI, I am seeing from all the polls I've done, everything that obviously we're all here. I think it's over 50% of legal teams have an AI goal in 25. So actually, maybe that's a good question. Who here has an AI goal, either stated or unstated, for 25? Okay, yeah, that's basically the entire room. Yeah, so when you walk in and you hear about goals or you come about problems, like literally like change management 101, you're brand new to a legal team. What do you do?
Understand the highest volume tasks that are being done by your team, and if there's some low-hanging fruit on ways to either automate them or stop doing them, that's like number one. And oftentimes you can automate with the tools you have. You don't have to go do an RFP, but you can do an RFP as soon as you like get those few low-hanging fruit kind of things done. But more importantly, like that other teams' pain points, understand them and address those first. I think it's easy to address the legal team pain points because we understand them more.
Yeah.
But if we can connect our pain points to our customers' pain points and the sales team, the support team, the marketing team, it's going to have a much higher success rate.
Any one either agreement type or random
I hate
success story
NDAs.
there?
I hate NDAs.
All right, yeah, let's go. NDAs. All right.
I mean, if you guys ever send me an NDA, you can throw this back in my face. I hate NDAs. I think they're useless. As soon as something is released, the cat is already out of the bag and you can't put it back in. So I try really hard to spend as little time as possible on NDAs, to have our team spend as little time as possible on NDAs. We have implemented one NDA. We use AI tools to kind of like identify things that we think maybe need to get reviewed. But on the whole, I don't want a team spending time on NDAs. I want them spending time on these really complex partnership agreements that have a lot of considerations that we're drafting from scratch.
Amazing. Good stuff. All right, so let's see. So AI. Let's talk about AI. So what have you talked with either the CEO or the executive team or the board? Are you feeling any pressure on AI? Or like tell us about the companies you've been in. What's been the conversations around AI?
I think it's interesting because only right now in the last year are boards really on AI as a pressureful moment. I've been at all these other companies and I love talking about automation, but that's I think the P0 of AI. How do you automate? Well, AI is automation on steroids. Let's figure this out. I think this year I've seen boards really be aggressive about what is our AI strategy, not just for the market, but internally, so that we don't have to grow headcount to this insane thing that people used to do. I've seen our board say, we want to cap headcount at X. And so what do you do when you want to cap headcount? You want to cap employee costs, you want to cap just the churn of like onboarding new people, getting them onto systems. Like that actually expends a lot of calories. So if you want to keep that at a certain level that you think is sustainable for a certain time period, like you have to turn to AI.
Yeah.
The work is not going to equilibrium to the number of people. Like AI is the only way to do it, and you have to be more efficient at what you're already doing. You have to drop some of the tasks you're doing that are no longer important. But our board has been really maniacal about what is our AI strategy internally, and how do we make sure that the internal AI strategy is not something we have outsourced to consultants to go figure out for us.
Sorry, it's Siri. You're going to give us another minute.
Good job,
Go ahead.
Siri.
Go ahead, go.
But it should be something that we feel and we understand and we know. We cannot outsource our strategy in this area because it has to be our DNA. And if we have to change our DNA, we got to do that.
So you mentioned DNA. There's a whole crop of companies now. So Cursor is the AI for software engineers. I think there's a few others. But getting to 100 million in revenue with 20 people, 25 people.
Wild.
And being AI native. Do you think it's possible for companies that were not AI native to operate at that level of efficiency? Or like how do you, when you get that question from the board, are you like, oh God, like what is it? How do you do it?
Yeah, gosh, I'd love to be a part of a 20-person company that has 100 million revenue.
Shocking, right?
It is shocking, and also like so easy to get alignment. Like forget Slack messages. Like you're like, hey, we're going out to pizza. Here are the 4 things I need to align with you on.
Exactly.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But yes, like I do think the expectation is companies are going to be equally, if not more, creative in valuation to their investors and their boards, with fewer internal resources. And so that means the growth of software, the growth of AI programs, and to do AI right, you have to have your data in the right place, your systems integrated, and the baseline levels of automation ready to go.
I love it.
My turn to turn around to you, though.
Amazing. I know, I'm like nervous.
So I have long time been a fan of Cecilia's. She is my GC idol, and maybe law is one of the unique professions where your idol can be the person no longer practicing law day to day. Tell me a little bit about how it has been to come into companies, to come into legal teams particularly, who are really interested in using AI but don't know the first place to start. Where do you have them start?
Yeah, so I love my metaphors, and the metaphor that I use is that giving a trained lawyer or a trained contracts manager, or a trained legal team member generative AI tool is like giving an elite marathon runner a bicycle. All right, so they're like, I got to deal with like the strappy shoes and the helmet and like those weird pants with the padding in them. Like, I'm just trying to walk across the street, leave me alone kind of thing. Or I'm already super fast. This is what I'm going to do. And they kind of try it and maybe they fall down, they get a hallucination or whatever. I have definitely seen that. So the way to kind of, what I've seen has been successful is like, all right, you're going to learn to ride a bike. You can like read regulation about bikes. You can go to Schwinn.com. You can read client alerts about bike regulation and the risks of biking. You can like form a biking committee. But like for me, like there's just no substitute for getting in and doing it. And then shocker, legal teams that use AI or just people that use AI in general are better at AI. Like this is not like some shocking proposition, but the idea that like, okay, if you want to get to those deeper use cases of being able to have a no-look NDA, being able to, do something more interesting. We had one team that part of their business was they did a lot of events contracts, and they had effectively a full-time contracts manager doing only that globally, right? They did like 1,500 events a year or whatever, and that was what she did. And basically, she had a checklist that she manually, would apply of like the insurance, the cancelability, whatever. And we created an AI prompt for her, and she would have only known to do that if she had actually tried an AI tool. Like it wouldn't have really occurred to her. And maybe it would have been like, okay, let's tag every event contract we've ever done. Like, no, that's like too heavyweight. Literally just that first pass of like, does it have an insurance provision? What's the choice of law? Whatever it is, it's a glanceable thing that she gets from AI. And it was, let's say it took her half an hour or whatever. She's pretty fast. She's, again, an elite marathon runner. But with a bike, she can do it in 10 minutes now. And so she's exploring other things in her career or whatever. That's an example of like, in that particular case, we did a training for that legal team. And, people were like, you get the jaw on the floor. And like, people were like just shocked at like, oh, wow, I can create this draft. And all these moments we've had with AI tools. But like doing it in a group setting, doing it in a like, okay, we're all going to ride bikes here. We're probably going to not be very good. You're probably going to scrape your knee, whatever. But like, it's fine. That being said, the other thing I would say is I see a very clear adoption curve, right? So there's a book, and we're here in sort of quasi Silicon Valley, called Crossing the Chasm, and it talks about new technology adoption. So the internet and mobile phones and the cloud and Siri, whatever, they all have an adoption curve, right? Where there's going to be people, probably like Megan and me and most of you in this room, that are like super interested. They love to play with stuff. They're going to do these things before they're big, right? So like I remember when I was I started my career as a paralegal at Yahoo. Only directors and above could have BlackBerries. And I was like so jealous. I was like, one day I will have a BlackBerry. And
You've
now
made it.
The thought is I have made it, exactly. Like it's hilarious, right? And you think about like the same thing when you think about like, it used to be a thing in like the early 2000s, in the late and mid 90s. It was like, what are the use cases for the internet? It would be like recipes and online poker. And like now, if I were to ask you like, what are the use cases of the internet? You'd be like, lady, like this is my whole life, right? And so like, it's just like kind of ridiculous. So I think we're in that phase in AI, but the way to learn to ride a bike is to ride a bike. So for me, even literally, I even say people that are like kind of scared of it, let's just like use ChatGPT to write like a thank you note, right? Like just like get started, see how it is. And you can progress to more sophisticated things. And for me, like it happens to also be quite lucrative that I teach these classes on AI, but I can tell you that like there's not a lawyer or a person that's taken my class that hasn't been like, oh wow, like this is different than what I thought, it's more powerful than I realized, et cetera. So I do teach classes. I happen to teach them on our platform, GCAI, but you can do it on anything, get on the internet. Andrej Kaparthy has a good class. Ali Miller is the other one. But I would say, particularly in legal ops, you can have you can increase your strategic influence for legal leaders in the age of AI by driving that education piece.
And I can attest, I've taken Cecilia's class. She came to do the class to our legal team offsite when I was at Apollo, and it was fantastic, and I highly recommend it. A really great way to start, very approachable. And one of my takeaways out of that class actually was, hey, like AI right now for lawyers is like having a really smart legal intern. Like it's really useful, and it's a starting point for you to keep going. So
that's exactly right. Yeah, and I think it's like it doesn't have to be, the other thing. So two things that I want to piggyback on Megan's class idea. First of all, I did want to get in that what I teach a lot of these classes to either to directly to departments, or I teach a group class on Maven. It was very clear to me when I worked with Megan's team that they all really liked each other, and it turns out that they adopted AI really quickly. And I think it's not a coincidence. So like some of this, like, can I build a team where people like each other and people aren't like, there's legal ops shoving stuff down my throat again. Like, thinking about that is like, I actually think that's a strategic tip, even though it's, soft California woo-woo, whatever. But like, I actually genuinely think that makes a difference. That's thing one. Thing two is like, this idea of the intern is absolutely right. So like, when you think about like, okay, AI gets stuff wrong, who else gets stuff wrong? Humans. Like, right, like how many times have I messed up, whatever, and like, this idea that like it can add value without being perfect, that's something that I think where I've seen people on that kind of skinny part of the adoption curve that are anti-AI, I ask myself like, are you that way to work for too? Probably.
And it's no surprise, though, that in-house teams are going to be adopting AI, I think, at a much higher rate than law firms, because we, as practitioners, say, hey, I want to do more with less. I want to get things done. I focus on progress over perfection. And law firms, they get paid to focus on perfection over progress.
That's 100% accurate, right? So I would say, it's been interesting. We, obviously SpotDraft announced their fundraising, and investors are very interested in legal AI as a concept for a bunch of reasons we can talk about. But the recognition that in-house are better adopters of technology in general, and in fact, the entire basically rise of legal ops as a concept, I think has been really pioneered by in-house, partly because, we're paid to get the job done, not for the time spent doing it. And, AI, like the incentives issue is real, right? We had a user the other day tell us that her au pair was in town, and she had to turn an amendment that morning because it was end of month, end of quarter, whatever. And she used GCAI. She got it done. She sent it out, and she went surfing with the au pair on a Thursday in Marin.
This is my alternate life.
That was a beautiful story. I was like, Jenny, I want your life. But anyways, yeah, that was a pinnacle story.
You mentioned something, Cecilia, in like the original kind of opening around how you saw this contract manager who used AI and was able to cut down the events agreements, and gosh, like what a huge time saver. How do you think in-house teams should think about AI and metrics and showing the value of AI, not just to the internal team, but to their business stakeholders? Hey, why do we need this? What is it doing for us?
Yeah, a couple success stories there. I think legal can really increase your brand by using AI effectively. So one of the success stories there, we had a company where one of our customers, the CEO and the board had an AI goal across the whole company. So similar to what it sounds like Anaconda has. And basically part of driving that was they did an AI innovation contest. And so at an all hands, each team, marketing, legal, support, whatever, was going to present kind of something they had done with AI that quarter. And back to our NDA example, legal basically presented, they were using GCAI, they presented the NDA use case, they had the intake, and they cut down the turnaround time. And then separately, they asked me, they said, hey, Cecilia, we're presenting for this all hands, can you send me our usage stats? And this team it's kind of cool, we use a software called PostHog that shows, we don't see your chats, of course, it's private, secure, et cetera, SOC 2, but we do see the volume, like the analytics around how often it's being used. And they had started, we signed a contract with them in June. They had a certain amount of chats, and it just continued and went up. And I gave them a little Loom video. I said, hey, this is really healthy usage. Legal is clearly thinking about when to use AI and how. And they presented the all hands, and legal got second place.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and that was behind engineering, which was like doing the core product.
Which is what
so
they
like
should be
that
doing.
Was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and they literally, were so excited, and it was a case where AI made them look good. Another customer where legal is just, it's random. It's a manufacturing company in Atlanta, and you would not think of them as like this tech bastion, but they've got a senior corporate counsel there who's really into GCAI. She uses it all the time. She wrote like a nice, effectively summary of the Trump tariffs, sent that out to the exec team. It gets forwarded all around the company. And that was like this like influence moment, right? Like, how does the message land? We've got a prompt in the system called Comms Improver Land Your Message, which is like, you can do the most beautiful legal analysis ever, but again, in-house,
if it's not four bullet points,
it has to land, right? It has to land of just like, you know, the whole privacy. Remember, you know, privacy conferences 10 years ago were like, do what you say what you do. Like, and I say that, and whenever I hear clients say that back to me, I'm like, okay, the message is landing. Like, this is right, you know. And so, anyway, she did that, and she sent me an email saying the marketing team wants seats of legal AI. And I was like, okay, maybe there's like a slightly more appropriate, you know, AI for marketing. And we referred her to Jasper, who also happens to be a customer. But anyways, we referred her to Jasper, so we'll see. But I would say it is a moment. It's also bringing this back to influence, and like Megan and I each have like a hobby around careers and mentoring others. But I would say AI as a moment now is very similar to privacy 10, 15 years ago, where if you just a little bit of effort this year of getting good at it, and your career will be set for years to come. Like, I'm looking at Ann Kerwin here in the front row, and she is getting requests for AI lawyers all the time, right? Or lawyers that know AI.
So that's a good segue. For someone who wants to get good at AI, what are your tactical tips on, hey, you've got a goal for yourself personally this year. What do you do this year to get good at AI?
Yeah, so use AI is really the headline. But you can take my class. It's getyousee.ai/classes. I think SpotDraft has some, you know, I know Tyler's had a couple podcasts and things, but absolutely get in, create a trial account. You can do it on ChatGPT if you want. You can do it on Anthropic, but just try it out. See how you like it. Next time you have a task, particularly where you're looking for detail or distilling something. So distillation, I would say, is the top easiest use case now. Some people call it summary, but you've got to look at, you know, the FTC click to cancel guidance is like 37 pages. Yes, the FTC put out bullets, but maybe you want more guidance specific to your company. Ask AI, okay, distill this for me. Draft me a first draft of a Slack to the company about click to cancel. Or, you know, similarly, the tariffs issue was another one. Or pick your random thing, right? Like an opinion comes out. Anybody remember when that FTC non-compete ban came out? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So when that happened, clearly your business teams were asking about it, and you're being called on as a legal team to provide this advice. See how AI can help. Or even something even sillier, like literally we had you can use AI to, like, somebody told me, they're like, Cecilia, I'll pay you if I never have to create a table in Outlook again. And I was like, I'll take your money, you know, but like something like that.
Or fix formatting in a Word doc that converted from Google Docs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, I mean, look, it's like, you know, elections is funny. You know that little like paragraph symbol? It turns out it's called a pilcrow. So now you know. So it turns out lawyers know
cousin
that.
To Clippy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, look, I mean, Clippy, like literally, it's like, you know, well, obviously it's a meme, but this idea that we're going to have AI on our shoulder everywhere, we'll get there. Just like, you know, when we were talking about recipes and poker night on the internet, you know, we're going to get to like AI is everywhere. And it'll feel ambient, you know, to the Siri point, right? Like this was when I get to the really futurist stuff, that's where I get to. But practical tips, take a class, use it, give yourself an AI challenge. If you need like an accountability buddy, you know, there's a Slack channel that we maintain that you can get in there. I would say distillation is the easiest. The next one is review, like where you're telling AI, like, I want you to look at this events agreement as an example for XYZ provision, and think about, it's the same systematizing skills, right? So like I saw Lucy Basley in the audience before, where like her advice is like, okay, what is the core contract that you're negotiating? And like, don't think about it as a red line, think about it as an outcome, and like, what is the thing that you're trying to do? And you know, we've even had more sillier use cases where somebody used AI to help write their self-reflection for their review, right?
I've heard that's a big use case.
Yep, or game out a tough conversation. So one fun use case I heard about recently was pretend you're an a-hole CFO and I'm negotiating my severance. And, you know, it was like, in 17 years of working, I've never seen someone with such audacity as to request a severance, you know, whatever. And it came back, and, that's a real use case, and you can prepare yourself either, emotionally and tactically. So, this idea that in-house, the reason I think in-house is a good place for AI is, that the job starts where the outside counsel job ends, right? Like, you have to know the law. You got to be a good lawyer, like, pass the bar exam, eat your blood oranges, whatever. But like, you got to like do more, right? Like, it's the people who are really great, the people who are in demand, who become, like Megan here, are the people who think about the leadership, the soft skills, the influence, the like, okay, how can I deepen my relationship with marketing? What are they trying to achieve? Whatever.
I'd probably add, like, don't let a tree fall in the forest without everybody else knowing that it fell and what it sounded like and how great it was, which is, if your team is using AI, go tell the rest of your company that you're using AI. This is how legal's using AI. It's really cool. We did this thing. I want to share this. Even if it's a one bullet point to your executive team and your like weekly sync, or if it's an all-hands presentation showcasing how you're leveraging it, I think having legal be the change makers to adopting AI sets the tone for the rest of the business, because if even legal is okay with what should be some sort of risk and some sort of worry, then everyone else should be okay too.
That's a really good point. Yeah. It's an opportunity to brand yourself that way too. Yeah. Awesome. Good
Well, thank
stuff.
you.
Are we, so Siri didn't tell us the main time. How are we doing, actually?
You're a little over time.
Oh, look at that. All right.
I was looking
we're
this
good.
direction though, thinking I was going to get the stop. Don't stop is the answer.
But it's still good. You guys should probably go for.
Oh, I mean, I can go all day. All right. What other fun AI stories? Yeah. So on the AI hallucination, like, let's see. No, you want me to? No, we're over. All right. No, don't use the term hallucination, or don't think about it as confabulation. Because hallucination, you're like, oh, the AI is like on drugs or whatever. It's having the bar exam snack. It's much more that it's like trying to make you happy and trying to like achieve what you're doing. So prompting makes a big difference. So take a class. That's the other message.
It's a good
stuff.
message to end on. Take a class.
All right, take a class. Be good. Be cool. Be like Megan. Basically.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Good stuff.